Hello! In this video, I'm going to break down all the cost I experienced when I decided to take up the hobby of bookbinding. This video will kind of just serve as an introduction to bookbinding that I will suggest at the beginning of any future bookbinding or rebinding videos for a cost breakdown. I'm going to divide this video into segments to talk about each part of the bookbinding or rebinding process, so you can skip to the desired section of the video. Please do keep in mind that I'm not an expert, this is just my experience and opinion on things. So for starters, the materials page. I'm going to reference a list by Spellbound with Sydney that I mentioned in my first bookbinding/rebinding video, and I'll put a link to the list and her YouTube channel. Her list is the only list I referenced when I was purchasing materials, though I did consult Reddit for a few specifics, but I don't have those saved. But I will put a list of the materials on the screen so you can see them as I read them. So here's the breakdown. So first of all, I had to get PVA glue, which was 16 ounces for $14.96 from Hollanders. I got spine reinforcement, also known as mole cloth, 18 inches by 2 yards for $9.50 from Hollanders. I got the Japanese book cloth sample book for $14 from Hollanders, and the Verona book cloth sample for $12, also from Hollanders. These book cloth samples I found to be really helpful because a few of the pictures online when I returned to actually purchase the cloth were not as accurate to the book, so I'm very glad I got the books. If you're just starting out, I would highly recommend the samples if you can't go in person to visually see them, because they just made picking cloth so much easier. And if you are on a budget, you don't need the Japanese book cloth. That is the more expensive book cloth, so I'd stick with just the Verona, as when I was doing research, that is what people recommended. Then I bought chipboard 8.5 by 11 for $18.99 from, unfortunately, Amazon, because I couldn't find it anywhere else. I got a silicone brush for $5.99 from, again, Amazon. And the last thing I got from Amazon were bookbinding headbands / end bands for $9.49. Now I know you can make these yourself, so this is also kind of optional. It's just what I thought I needed, and then I learned I could do it myself. So if you're gonna make it yourself, then you just need the book cloth and some twine, and there are a bunch of videos online for how to do that. And then I repurchased stuff from Hollanders so that I could actually get the book cloth I needed. So I got the imitation suede book cloth sample book in case I wanted to do anything with that, and that was $7.50. I assume if you were going to get this, you would be making more of journals, not bookbinding, but you do you. You'd have the fanciest book rebind ever. And then here's where I got the book cloth. I got fig, coal black, sapphire, 2 merlots, plum, and forest, and all of them were $8.25. And unfortunately, I did not make note of how big the sheets were, so I can't tell you that information, but it is right on the website on Hollanders because I got all of that from there as well. People just said it was really reputable, so it was where I went to get stuff. Now, I don't have specifics for these purchases, but I also got decorative cardstock, which I think you can get about one of those little booklets. I'm gonna guess about 50 sheets for $12 from Michaels. I got a bone folder. You could get those from Hollanders. I think they were about $7, but I knew Michaels had some, so I went there. Unfortunately, I don't remember how much that was. And lastly, I got a roller cutter for, unfortunately, again, don't know how much, but it was also from Michaels. And then I made my own book press for $69.53, and I got all the parts from Lowe's, and I will go into that into a different section. But in total, I spent $219.71, not including the cardstock, the folder, or the cutter because I did not pay attention to how much that was and I didn't make note of it. But that was the breakdown for my materials, and I will go, like I said, into depth about the book press later if you're interested. And just as a general note, if you have any questions about the materials, bookbinding, rebinding, anything like that, feel free to leave them in the comments and I will answer them to the best of my ability. And then here's what I did for the books. I did actually want to go into more depth as to how much I was like buying them for in this video, because then I guess it would give kind of a gauge for what like buying something new versus buying something secondhand is the word I was looking for. That's what I was really looking for in this section. So for the books, I mostly went with thrifted books because I knew I was just starting out with the process and I didn't want to ruin any books that I actually liked or already cared about. So here's kind of the breakdown of books I got, and I got them all from Goodwill. So the first book I got was The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Other Stories, and this was a hardcover book for $8.99 plus shipping, fees, taxes, etc. It came to a total of $15.91. If you want to see the comparison of like what I got it for versus how much it would be brand new, you'll have to check out those respective videos because I go into more depth into those in those videos. So the next thing I got the Hunger Games trilogy all hardcover for $14.99 with shipping, fees, taxes. Again, it is $29.29. I got some vintage Shakespeare books. There were 7 total, and they were all hardcover, and I got them for $12.99 and $25.99 total. I got the School for Good and Evil, books 1 through 4, paperback, for $9.99 and a total of $24.58. I also got Pride and Prejudice and A Tale of Two Cities, both hardcover, and I lumped these together because they were like a bundle. And so for both books, it was $12.99, and I paid $25.10 total. And then I did have to rebuy Pride and Prejudice, the version that I bought originally, because I'm like 90% sure that there's mold on it. And so I wasn't comfortable like keeping it. I still have it as of recording this video, but it is in a plastic bag and will probably be removed from this household once I get the rebuy. But the rebuy was for $17.26 and I paid a total of $18.30 for that one. And this one was not Goodwill, this one was eBay. So in total I spent $77.21 on the books, and then shipping killed me because it's like buying from Etsy, where even if you make a big purchase, since all the purchases are coming from different locations, you have to pay shipping multiple times. So I paid $61.96 in shipping for a total of $139.16 on thrifted books. And absolutely, you do not have to go to Goodwill for these. I would highly recommend any local thrift stores you may have that carry books. Or if you do want to go to Goodwill, just go in person and see what they have. I was very specific with what I wanted, so I did pay the shipping. But if you drive or walk or take public transport or whatever and go directly to the store, you might be able to find even cheaper prices. I've seen people get books for like $2 and you don't have to pay shipping, so you definitely could save more money than I did. But then, because I couldn't find all of the books thrifted, here are some of the new books that I bought. And because they were new, I had to pay full price for them. So, to finish off the Hunger Games series for my video, I bought The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and Sunrise on the Reaping. Both of those came out to $27.99 because hardcover, brand new books. And then I also bought The School for Good and Evil, Book 5 and Book 6, so that I could finish that series as well. And those were paperback, so they were $11.99 each. And I didn't add up the total price. So let me do that very, very quickly. So on new books, I spent $79.96, even more than I spent on all of those thrifted books. New books are so much more expensive, but if you're buying a new book because you like the author or you're excited about the book and you decide to rebind it, you can't really get it thrifted unless you wait. So I don't have much more to say about the books. They're pretty self-explanatory, and I do go into more depth as to why I chose these specific books in their respective videos, so feel free to check them out after this one. I don't know how many will be up based on when this video goes out, but at the very least, the rebind video for The School of Good and Evil, all 6 books, will be up by the time this video comes out, because it feels weird to put this out before I even have any videos on bookbinding or rebinding on the channel. So finally, the last thing I did is I made a book press. This is completely optional, I would say, if you're going to do rebinding. Most people just use it for a support of sorts when they're gluing the spine. They find it easier to have it like propped up and everything. I'm sure you can find a workaround. I'm sure there are other videos explaining how to do it without a book press and anything like that. This was just a really fun thing I was excited about, and I got to do it with my dad, so it made it even more special. Additionally, book presses are really freaking expensive. Unless maybe you buy a really cheap one, but then I can't really speak to the quality of it. But I DIY'd this one. We got all the pieces from Lowe's, and the plan was from Skilltree on YouTube. I'll link their channel in the specific video. It's about 5 minutes long in the description below. I really liked how he explained the video, or explained how he made the book press in the video. I thought he was actually really funny as well. Highly recommend. No flaws in the video. It was all skill issue when we came into problems. But I didn't even really deviate from the video. I got even those specific parts he recommended in the video. So I guess the ability to do this really comes down to 1, your skill, and 2, the tools. My dad did already have the tools to cut the wood and drill the holes into the wood. But I know you can get wood cut at Lowe's or Home Depot, or maybe any other supply stores, and power tools tend to be readily available in certain scenarios. But just know that this kind of book press is almost completely optional. Like, unless you're book binding and you're making your own typeset and putting things out into the world, or if you're making your own typeset and you're printing to make your own book, then I don't see the point in having to spend a bunch of money and buy a book press or make one. But again, choice is up to you. Do your own research as to whether you think you're going to want one or not. And if you want to learn how to make one, check out Skilltree's video in the description. Here's a breakdown of the costs I incurred based on Skilltree's recommendations of materials. So for starters, I got 4 wing nuts at $1.19 each. That came out to be $4.76. I needed 4 3/8 washers, and those were 42 cents each, so it came out to $1.68 total. And then I needed 4 more washers in a 1/2 inch size, and so those were 52 cents each for $2.08 total. And I don't remember if I mentioned it, but the 3/8 is a 3/8 inch size. Additionally, I needed a 6-inch long carriage bolt, and I needed 4 of those. They were $5.78 each, so that came out to be $23.12. And then we ended up getting a 2x4 birch hardwood sheet for $34.89, so a total of $69.53. First things first, we did buy a larger sheet of wood than we needed due to a miscommunication in how big of wood I needed. And I told my dad the size, and I think I just confused him, so we ended up with a really big sheet of wood. We could make 3 book presses from this one sheet of wood. So just keep your measurements in mind. Keep in mind everything. You could definitely make it for much cheaper than what we ended up with, especially if you go on like when there's deals, if you have coupons, anything like that. And for specifics, I did make my book press to be 14 inches by 12 inches or 35.5 by 30.5 centimeters. So times 2 for the 2 pieces of wood. So each sheet was 14 by 12. And then additionally, Skilltree did suggest adding a handle, so I did add a handle. I didn't add it to the cost since it was something my dad already had lying around after he replaced the handles in our kitchen. And I do want to say that Skilltree put their handle in the middle of the board. I put mine on the sides because you have to screw in handles from the bottom. I knew the end or like the head of the screw would be like poking out, and I didn't want it to cause indents on my signatures, my text block, whatever you want to call it. So I put them on the sides so that I could still have that handle for pushing down on the pages and for carrying it. But that's what I did. Take your pick. I don't actually know if it would cause indents, but I didn't want to take that risk and then have to change it and then have holes in my board. Also, I didn't record the process of making it, but I did take some photos, so I'll quickly pop those on screen. I'm really happy with how it turned out, though I admittedly did very little in the process. My dad did most of the work for me, which is fine by me. I didn't want to touch the power tools. Anyway, where was I going with this? Oh, I do want to stain the wood at some point in the future. Because right now, I completed this project yesterday, and I am sick of it. Because it just took a while. It took much longer than I was expected. But I do want to stain it. It is chipping a little bit, so the stain would kind of make it all look even, and I feel like it would look nice. And it's pretty easy to disassemble, so I'm not really worried about it. So if it looks different in future videos, that's why I'm probably not going to make a video of, here, watch me stain this piece of wood. But overall, this project took my dad and I about 2 hours to complete, not including shopping. That took about an hour, but we did get other stuff as well, and we didn't ask for help when we couldn't find stuff, because we're both introverts. So, 2 hours, 3 hours if you include shopping. We did run into a few issues, and we had to do it in 2 different segments because my dad had to go run more errands with my mom. So, it took about 2 hours. Yep. And we did run into some issues, like I mentioned, but nothing too major. And lastly, I think that's everything I have for you in this intro to bookbinding/rebinding. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and be sure to check out my links in the description below. I am most active on Blue Sky. I'll see you next Monday. Bye!